Welcome to Surviving on Wine and Cuss Words. I'm Emily.
And I'm Charlotte.
And this is my brother, Alex.
We have a guest today.
Yes. Quick trigger warning before we get started for discussions of childhood sexual abuse, sexual assault, sexual violence, and emotional abuse.
Yay! Alex is on with us today. Say hi, Alex.
Hello.
Yeah, you have to talk. It's a podcast.
So today, Alex, my brother, will be on to kind of talk about his perspective and his side of the story and his experiences through
everything that we've talked about
that we've
so
been
far.
through.
Yeah.
Alex, how are you? Tell the people how you're doing.
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Today's been great. The weather was good. It wasn't too cold. It was 21 degrees up on the mountain.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Awful.
It was good. I was sweating.
It was 69 degrees here today.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Beautiful.
too hot for me.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we explained to them in the last episode why you missed it because you stayed on the mountain snowboarding. So you missed our call and we had to put you off to this week. But here we are.
Yeah.
Finally.
Okay. Well, Alex, I know you haven't listened to much of the podcast, but what we've kind of done is we kind of told the story about the day that we turned our dad in and then the trial. And I guess what I want to do is kind of start with that first day.
Yeah.
If you don't care.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about that today, preparing for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously it's hard to lose somebody, and like it's hard to accept that somebody isn't the person that you expected them to be, you know?
That's an understatement.
But like, yeah, I mean, I spent 14 years of my life looking up to him as like a role model without realizing all the damage that was being done. But like, I don't know. I still think it's a privilege to have the life that I have, and like I'm grateful for the way that things happen because I've learned a lot from them.
That's good. I like that. Well, Alex, we told the story about when Emily told me and how you were in the bedroom texting with him. I'd just like to know, at what point did you know what was going on? At what point did you realize or find out? Was it not until I told you?
Yeah, it wasn't until you came into the room and told me exactly what happened.
Yeah, which was after we called the police and after everything got rolling when the police came and told me to tell you to stop texting. And how did that?
Yeah, what did that look like?
Hit you in your mind? Do you remember?
I mean, I remember him telling me he had done something bad and I wouldn't be able to talk to him for a while. And I was just confused. But then, like, I don't know, it kind of, like, there was a brief moment of denial whenever you came in and told me what happened. But just for some reason, that didn't last very long. It just kind of all started making sense. Everything clicked into place, and it felt like, well, if I look at him in that light and change my perspective, then actually his behaviors make a lot more sense.
I've said the same thing.
I was kind of hoping, I know that, well, I don't know, but like, I assumed that you had not experienced any actual sexual abuse. And so I was just kind of wondering if you could kind of tell people, like, even though you weren't abused, you were still neglected and abused in other ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is like definitely like the alcohol and drug use at a really young age. And then just like kind of being ignored, like
that
always
was the biggest one.
Like always
like,
finding some way to get you to go away.
Whether it was a video game or do you want to go to your friend's house or
Yeah. And never really
Yeah, I
knowing
mean,
why.
yeah, I definitely didn't have any idea why, but like he was a lonely person.
Mhm.
And so whenever it was my time, I think that was when he was at his lowest. And like,
Mhm.
so that is something I definitely kind of picked up on, like being able to tell when he was upset, because that also meant that I get to spend time with him. And
Mhm.
like, it also kind of meant that like the only time I get with him is when he's upset, because I remember specifically this one memory. Like it wasn't just one time, it was a reoccurring thing when I had the basketball goal, and
Mhm.
like I just wanted to be outside shooting basketball because I had no friends in the neighborhood. Like, so like I would go out there and shoot for a few hours and then like go inside and ask if he wanted to do that, and he was always just like on his computer or doing something.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just like, I don't know, he never had time to do that, and I was always just like, why? I don't know, it's not
Mhm.
hard to go out and shoot the basketball, like. But that's one thing.
I know there are things when you were your age that might not have meant as much to you as they do now. Like looking back, when you're given free reign to play video games or, go shoot, here's your basketball goal, go shoot basketball. And at that time, I felt like before any of this came to light, um, that he was the fun one, the one that let you drink alcohol, introduced you to drugs, said play all the video games you want, just, go to your room and play these video games or go outside and do this. So it seemed like to a kid, it might have been, he's letting me do what I want. So this is the place I want to be.
Yeah,
Did you
that's what
ever?
it felt like.
Yeah. But
I
then
mean,
in looking back and as an adult, it's more I needed you to be out of the room or I needed you to be distracted in some way.
well, I I, I wasn't completely unaware. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I was just finding the positive part of feeling neglected being that I get to do whatever I want. So I guess I might as well make the best of it.
Mhm.
If I'm going to be alone, I'm going to have fun.
Right. I mean, I think one of the things that stood out to me at the time when things were falling into place and making sense was on his Facebook. Every picture on his Facebook was of Emily. There was one picture that you were in and she was in it too. And I
I
thought to
mean,
myself, he doesn't even have pictures of Alex on Facebook, which is, I mean, I know that's not much, but it's very telling, you know?
well, I didn't let anyone take pictures of me at that age too.
Well, okay.
I was really insecure about that.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, that makes
But
sense too.
I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I'm sure Emily, you were insecure at some point having pictures taken, but like at some point you didn't have a choice anymore.
Hmm.
So like,
And girls are different too, they love the selfies and the things like that.
Yeah.
I love them now. I
Right.
mean, look at me.
I mean, really, look at you. And the videos of
I'm
the
all red.
snowboarding. Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Um,
That's okay. You said that like you have some like underlying feeling of I shouldn't be doing that.
No, I said that's okay. It's like I was thinking to myself, that's the Colorado selfie. That's the Colorado life there that
Oh,
you're all
oh
red,
yeah.
that you're
Oh,
up
that
there
I'm
having
red now.
fun.
That more
yeah.
has to
Yes.
do with the fact that I have red lights installed in my lamp.
Well, I get that. That's the
Has
life you're
nothing to do
living
with
now.
Colorado.
Well,
You're just
The
living that.
Colorado life.
I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I don't know. You might not have red lights in your lamp here. You might. I don't know. I don't know.
I would have.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
So
have.
I don't know if you want to talk about um like any other kind of emotional abuse that you might have experienced.
I mean, something I was thinking about today was like that, like the situation with him was kind of just like an accent to the way, like a trend that I had noticed in my life for a long time, where it feels like I don't understand the way things actually are. And so I end up feeling lost from it. Like, you remember Snoopy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this was a freak accident, but as soon as we got this puppy, he gets out of the car, runs into the road, and gets hit. And then, like, I just remember feeling like what? I mean, like, why? Like, what's the reason, like, for that? And then, like, there was even another dog, like another little puppy that Nanny found. And like, I remember being at school telling all my friends, like, I get to go home to a new puppy. And then I got home and they had like found a new home for her already. And I was like, damn, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, the way that I process this trauma has kind of just been something that I've used my entire life, and I think will continue to use for the rest of my life. It doesn't feel, honestly, much different. Like, it feels a little bit heavier sometimes, but
Mhm.
like, you know, I've
Well,
learned.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're all still growing. We're all still healing. So one thing that I think about is as a sibling who has no disclosure of any sexual abuse or trauma, you like what I'm trying to say is Emily, for someone who hurt her, you would think logically has a reason to not ever care to see them again. But you, as a sibling that happened to, did you ever struggle with, I want to support Emily and I don't ever want to see him again, and I'm on her side and I love her. And then the kid, the guy that says, well, I'm never gonna see my dad again or for a very long time.
I
Did
think
that ever struggle?
that's the biggest struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think for me personally is the fact that, like, like I said in the beginning, is like relearning what somebody actually is.
Right.
And like, I still have that feeling of like, I don't feel like I have an actual father. Like, I know I've got Bo and I love Bo, and
Mm-hmm.
like, he has done a lot more for me than like my actual dad ever has or ever will have the chance to anymore. But it's still just this feeling of like, I don't know, like when it was my time to go play basketball or like throw the baseball with my dad, I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the experience that I got with Bo as a dad was the part of my life where I'm doing drugs and I'm a rebellious teen and like we're supposed to hate each other.
And the
And like,
disciplinarian comes out.
there was no like established foundation before that happened. So it just
Mm-hmm.
felt like an unnecessary like addition to my life. But like,
Right.
yeah, it's difficult to like put into words the way that I feel about him, because I mean, I've always been a really forgiving person,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I don't feel any hate, but it's hard to say that I feel love.
For
Indifference.
your dad.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know, there were times that you had expressed interest in seeing or talking to him and just needing maybe some sort of closure, like asking why or, you know, asking questions. I'm not sure what you would have ever asked. And that, that never came to fruition. Just out of life happened and we just never pursued that. But, do you ever think about that anymore? Like being
I
able to
mean, yeah,
talk, being able to ask questions?
I think about the fact that if I could even think about what questions I wanted to ask. I just know I wouldn't be satisfied with the answers. I highly doubt that he's learned anything, because like what his testimony was in court was that, he was abused as a child, right? So he had his entire life to not like
To change.
to learn how to be. Yeah, he had his entire life to heal. And I mean, healing doesn't take any set amount of time. It can take your entire life to heal. But
Amen.
like, I don't think that in the process of healing, you should ever be excused from abusing. So I just don't think he's going to actually see it that way. I think he's going to look for any reason to relieve himself from blame.
To continue to say it's not as bad as you think. It's normal in these places, or it's okay here, or it's because it never take any responsibility.
Yeah, honestly, if I went and talked to him and he said that to me, it'd be a lot worse than I am now. Like, I wouldn't be able to handle that, because that's just more proof that I didn't need.
Right.
Were there ever any like signs that you saw, growing up? Obviously our parents were divorced and we both would go over to Dad's house. And was there any signs that you saw as you got older that you started to realize some of this isn't normal? Like, this isn't normal.
I mean, first time getting drunk.
Yeah.
I remember that because I was 9.
Do too. Yeah, I do too.
And like, that was not normal. And I knew that. I was, I mean, but being that young, it's impossible to see that as a sign that something is wrong, because you're still in that period of your life where your parents are always right.
Right. You're still trusting.
You're trusting everything they say. And that's why we're doing this, because at that period in your life, you didn't have the mature brain to see these things, but we're doing this kind of podcast and taking your frame of mind and Emily's point of view and my point of view and giving that out to people, so that, I mean, heaven forbid, if there's a 9-year-old that was listening and thought this might be happening, some of the things that you say may indicate to them, well, this is happening to me too. He gave me alcohol last week, and that's why we're doing it. I'm not trying to make specifics or anything like that, but I think Emily, we talked on an episode a few weeks ago about your reaction in general, and an abuse victim's reaction with not wanting to be with them. And we had the example of when I got married to Bo, and you just did not want to go there. You did not want to go, and you freaked out. Do you remember after the wedding how things were after my wedding to Bo? Or did that even make an impression on you?
Well, it's hard to say that it did, because I mean, at that point, like, I don't know. I think there was still some part of me that like trusted, like, my dad.
Well, of course. I mean, you had no reason not to at that point.
Oh yeah,
it was before.
Yeah. So I definitely remember thinking, like, it's really hard to accept this like new man as like someone I should listen to, care about, love, or anything.
You're talking about Bo now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I mean,
it was definitely hard.
And so it was probably comforting to go back to your dad at that point. Yeah. And then, I went and stayed with Nanny and Granddaddy because
you didn't want to go.
Did you ever notice how angry Dad would get with me?
I noticed that frequently, and I would also get angry with you. So I thought that was just a normal thing. Like, at that age in my life, I just thought, maybe like he would get angry for the same reasons I would. And like, I would talk to him about the things that you would do that would make me angry, and like, I would always be so confused when he had a reason for me to not be angry, but he would still be angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not easy. And I've talked before on the podcast about how it was very confusing because at this time in Emily's life, she's a teenager, preteen, tween, rebellious, and I was so frustrated and confused thinking, is this just the way a teenage girl acts with her mom? Is she just being bratty? And I imagine that's kind of what you were like. She's just, oh, Emily, and it didn't stand out as anything that you would need to, that of any cause or concern.
Well, I think it's also just like so common for people to believe that teenagers are hard to deal with because abuse is rampant in a lot of households.
Right.
Like
right.
emotional neglect that people don't even realize. I read a book like about emotionally immature parents, and I realized how many people have emotionally immature parents. And I was reading it thinking about you, Mom, thinking like, damn, I didn't even think of you as emotionally immature, but you like display some of these qualities because everybody does. Everybody carries generational trauma, and like ideally, like I think it's possible to live a life raising a child and just never feel like it's difficult. Well,
Imagine.
like
I don't know.
not that there wouldn't be challenges,
like it
but it's
feels
just like,
natural and every stage
yeah,
of the game, and I didn't know anything. Every time was something new. Anytime something came up, it was something new, and I might have questioned it in my mind, but it never entered my mind as abuse. There were so many other things because you want to believe the best in people. We as humans want to believe the best in people.
Well, I was hoping that you could kind of talk on what it was like after your dad went to jail and what that was like to kind of continue on with real life and start your healing journey as you're like entering high school and doing all these things in your life that are already really hard on top of losing your dad. Like for me, I know it kind of felt like a death almost, where it was like, and it wasn't even a real death, so people didn't even understand why you were mourning, but it was just like this loss of like everything your life was, and everything was different. And I was hoping you could kind of talk about what it was like starting high school, losing your dad, and dealing with the trial all at once.
well, another thing that happened right at the beginning of high school, the first day actually, I broke up with my girlfriend.
That too.
So like there were just a lot of things, and I kind of remember feeling like at just initially like none of this really matters. The only thing that matters is what I'm going through right now. And that's, if you ever notice me having bad grades, not doing my homework, it's because I knew from the get-go that like whatever I was doing wasn't important because it wasn't contributing to my well-being in any way. Like, I mean, I just felt like specifically for high school, I was just being conditioned to work, and that wasn't very important to me. And so like I would try and focus more on the social aspect of it, but then I felt like I couldn't really make friends because I had this big secret, like, and that I think not talking about it at that age definitely led to me believing that one day I would become him. And that's one of my like biggest fears that I'm still getting over, is that like I don't know, just like it's in my genetics. It was in his genetics, and that was like his whole argument was that like it's family. And like I'm just like I'm not scared to talk to girls because I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of being a creep. Like I was like one of my friends' roommates, like we were cuddling on the couch, and then just all of a sudden I just felt this feeling wash over me. And it was like, I need to leave. Like I'm literally assaulting this woman. I just need to leave. And then like I found out later from my friend that she actually was just having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like I still can't get over that.
There are certain times that you stop and you think, am I doing what I want, or am I doing what she wants?
Yeah, like it's like I feel like a lot of people would, like, especially, you know, teenage boys, a lot of them just are doing exactly what they want without any regard to what other people want. And it's like, that's unhealthy. But in the same way, what I'm doing is unhealthy because I have no regard for what I actually want. But I know what I want, but like, how am I supposed to go get that?
We are
Because like,
hypersensitive to consent, which is
yeah,
fine.
I need a contract. I need a written contract with a video, like witness and everything. Like,
and it
that
didn't
would be
help either.
preferable.
Are you more afraid of getting in trouble, or are you more afraid of making someone uncomfortable?
Definitely making someone uncomfortable, because if I make someone uncomfortable, I feel like I deserve it, you know, to get in trouble. I deserve to be like ridiculed, and so I do it to myself. Like, I've had people tell me that I really love, like, that they just don't feel the same way, and like the way that I'm acting is very pushy because, you know, I might have a crush on a girl who doesn't like me back, and like that kind of reaction is what makes me like isolate. It's like, okay, I need to like punish myself for that.
So you get this feeling like, oh God, I must have been creepy like my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what you have to compare to. But you have other stuff to compare to. And that's what you need to continue working on. That you're not like him. You didn't have the same background as him. You know, you need to continue down the path of, you have role models, you have male role models that you can reach out to. Now you're deep in thought, which is not great for a podcast.
Well, I'm just thinking about, I mean, what are my options?
To reach out. Well,
Yeah, who are
you
my
can
male
reach
role
out
models?
to Bo, you can reach out to Granddaddy, you can reach out to Shane, reach out to Heath. You know, they're okay. All right. So
it's
they're
so unusual. We never talk. Like,
it's unusual.
that would be very unusual.
That's right. You're right. I get it. But
there are people.
There are people. You don't always have to compare yourself to him or think
there's
that
other male role models, not to reach out to, but to kind of
look up to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there.
I think my biggest male role models are not part of my family at all.
Right.
And that's something I find a lot of comfort in, because, I mean, aside from everything else, you know, growing up as a teenager, I felt misunderstood all the time. That was just part of who I was in my eyes at the time, was that nobody understands me. Yeah. They just can't, like, and I still don't think people do, because I just have a way of thinking that is not logical to a lot of people, but to me it's completely logical. But I don't know, it also is very emotional, the way that I think. Like, the way that I want to live my life has to do with my deepest passions. And it's like Bo would say about like my choice of career, and everyone did say at the very beginning, like, me wanting to be a musician was something I should not like really try for. I can, but it's not going to get anywhere. That's what everyone would say. That's what I remember, at least. And like, I mean, here I am living in Colorado, like doing shows.
Yep.
I'm not making money, but like,
but you're doing what you love. You get full support.
I'm doing what I love.
You know,
now I do feel supported by y'all.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I don't, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when I was wondering if you could kind of tell us your healing process, and like what you do when you're feeling bad and how you
Oh my gosh. Daisy is calling me. I'm gonna hold on, stop. It's okay. It's okay. I'm back. I was gonna pull this up and read it to you. Just a little bit of something I wrote down when I was meditating in the lift shack.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. In the lift.
Okay. Okay. So just the end of it. I wrote a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but the physical experience of your life could remain completely the same, but the emotional experience will change the perceived meaning of the physical when you change your perspective. Life is an inevitable fall towards an imminent death, or it's a graceful flight with a peaceful landing and a good view along the way. And it all has to do with how you choose to view your life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I use every time if I feel like something has happened to me. It's as much as it is like a hindrance to my happiness and my well-being. It's an opportunity to view it as something happening for me. Like,
I got you.
like I said earlier, if there's a girl that doesn't like me,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's an opportunity for me to chase something better
Mm-hmm.
instead of forcing me to view myself as lesser.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity to view myself as more.
Well,
And like that's probably the biggest thing is
mm-hmm.
realizing that things don't happen to you but for you.
So what advice would you give to maybe somebody whose sibling or somebody they loved um, has experienced sexual abuse and they've just recently come out? What advice would you give to them to support the victim? What advice would you give to support their own mental health, especially if they've lost somebody in the process?
Well, something I tell anybody who's going through something is to put yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't feel guilty or responsible for somebody else's emotions if you aren't even capable of understanding your own. You have to take time and you have to process. And if your main goal is to help your family, which I feel like a lot of people in my shoes would want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to help yourself. And you like, just have to, like, you would always tell me this, Mom, if you have an empty cup, then you can't be pouring into anyone else's. You have to pour into yours.
You have to.
That's one big piece of advice.
Because you can't give out smiles if you're not smiling. You can't give out love if you don't feel love. If you don't have it in your heart, you've got to feel it so that you can give it. And you're an extremely generous person. And is there anything that you think you did right or you wish you had done better during that time?
I mean, I
I mean,
personally
like,
don't really feel like I don't feel like there was much I could have done wrong.
right. No. I didn't mean it like that. Like you think to yourself, I'm super glad I did this during that time.
Oh.
Or I wish I had done this during that time.
Mm-hmm. I can't really say that there's anything that I feel strongly about. I mean, I'm just for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that I isolated. Like I did feel alone and depressed, but I also learned how to find happiness in my own solitude. And I think that was really important for me because now I know how to pour into my own cup,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how to draw boundaries. I know how to not let people into my life that are gonna like hurt me,
Drain you.
and it's just it was really important for me to discover myself kind of alone in that time.
But you were surrounded by people who loved and cared about you, which kind of made it safe to do that.
Exactly. And that's another thing. I do constantly feel gratitude for the family that I have. And it's not, I don't know. I used to feel really guilty for isolating, for leaving my family. I would go off, to David's house and be family like with him, but I wouldn't do that with my own family, and I felt really guilty about that. But like now looking back at it, I understand that I just needed that. I needed some separation because there was a lot of trauma, a lot of misunderstanding, and like it's made it easier for me to understand that you can't feel love if you feel guilt.
Right. And you didn't do anything wrong. That's the first step to not feeling guilty, understanding that you didn't do anything wrong.
Right. Okay. Any closing remarks? Any last things you want to get in there?
Let's see. Let me look at my notes real quick.
Okay.
Well, we were absolutely really glad to have you. I'm so glad that our schedule finally lined up where we could do this. We would absolutely be happy to have you on, any other episodes. We typically just pick a topic and talk about it.
Anytime you think of something that you want to talk about, we'll do it again.
Of course.
When you come home, we'll do it for sure.
We'll get a home version of it. But so any parting words? Some kind words for the people?
Nothing now?
No. Okay. I'm good. I think if they want anything from me, they can ask.
And they will at survivingonwineandcusswords@gmail.com because we get the messages.
Yes, we did get an email asking specifically for your point of view. I think people really struggle with it. Go for it.
Do it. He plays our intro and outro.
The oh no.
Do it. Just play for us. While we thank everybody for listening.
Yes.
And we're so glad that Alex got to come and share some of his points of view with us.
Yes, as always, questions, comments, concerns, email us at survivingonwineandcusswords@gmail.com. Episodes bi-weekly, going out on Tuesdays, I think now.
We try our hardest for it.
Yeah, so just keep sending in your emails. Of course, we have our P.O. box if you want to send in your own cork that we can hang on the wall for you. Otherwise, just have a beautiful week, guys. Thank you so much. All right.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
I love you guys.
Play us out.
I love you.